All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show. We are your illustrious hosts. I am Alex Baquero, and the man who has a frequent visitor card to 11, it is Christopher Condit, your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmiest of lukewarm opinions. Chris, how many more punches do you need for a free visit right now? What's on your punch card right now?
It'd be 0. Since
That's
I
right.
just
You already got it because you go so much. That's right.
I can't even go with the bit here because I just learned what that was
Everyone,
10 seconds
please
ago.
go follow, like, rate, review, subscribe, all the places below our faces. Before we get into it, we were having a conversation in the pre-show here that I think we need to carry through. So Chris,
Pre-show might be better than the real show.
Honestly, it might be. Chris's supposedly lukewarm take is that Atlanta is his least favorite major American city, and so I'm wondering what he considers. Do you think we have many Atlanta listeners, Chris? I think we have more UK listeners than we do Atlanta listeners.
Probably so, but still.
Godfather Pat is probably going to take offense to this.
I understand that.
He is. But so I'm just going to name cities. I'm wondering if you consider them major, or what would you say is the next tier? Mid-tier? Mid-level American city?
Mid-major.
Okay. Mid-major.
So,
all right.
Do you consider Atlanta a major American city or no?
Yeah, I probably do.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm just wondering I'm wondering what else is in the class. There might be other major American cities that I think are worse than Atlanta.
Right. So I know there's at least probably one.
Okay, so New York and Los Angeles, we're getting
obviously major,
away, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Chicago, major.
Yeah.
Dallas,
major.
Houston,
I think major. Yeah, absolutely, because of the sheer population. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, major. Miami,
major.
Boston,
major.
Philadelphia,
major.
Washington, D.C.
Well, it's the capital, so it has to be major.
Okay. San Francisco, major.
Major.
Seattle,
major. I call that one a major.
Phoenix,
probably major now, but feels like a mid-major.
Okay.
I'll be going there for the first time in the spring. So
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
That one by population is probably major. Like, it's a pretty big city that people don't realize.
Okay.
But I think a lot of people, because of the Midwest factor, will call it mid-major.
I would call it mid-major.
I would say it's on the cusp. I'll give it mid-major status.
Okay. Detroit.
See, I think that's a major city, and it's still
a Delta hub, I guess.
It's still quite populous. So is Minneapolis, by the way. That's a nice Delta hub, by the way.
It is very nice Delta hub. I've been there. I got stranded there for 8 hours on our way to Japan.
You could do worse. You could do worse than be there. So I think Detroit is a major American city, but I also am probably looking more at the history of Detroit. And it's still hugely populous, right? People don't realize how many people still live there. It's just lost. It's 500,000 or 800,000 people live there. It's just lost half its population because before 1.6 million people lived there,
Okay.
So I can understand why that's probably in the mid-major tier now, but it's one of my favorite American cities.
All right. I'm going to give you a few in bunches because this is dragging. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh.
All mid-majors, but all lovely.
Mid-majors. Okay. So they're not in the Atlanta tier. Okay. Vegas, Salt Lake.
I think Vegas is probably major because of the tourist attraction and the fact that non-Americans can generally identify it on a map.
Salt Lake.
Probably still in the mid-major category, but growing.
Mid-major and growing. Okay. San Diego, New Orleans.
New Orleans is probably on the cusp of a major. San Diego is mid-major.
Okay. Well, all right.
All of those cities. No, I've not been to all of them, but at least on its face, all of those cities I would take over Atlanta. No offense, Atlanta, or offense. Whatever.
I would not take Salt Lake or Vegas over Atlanta.
I don't know. I probably would.
Okay. Interesting. Tampa Bay.
Oh, mid-major.
Yeah, mid-major. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Now that we've lost everybody from the UK.
Look at how many cities we have, though.
Yeah.
I'm probably still missing some, but okay. I'm getting.
I
A
mean, you
better.
didn't even get to like Oklahoma City or,
No,
Orlando.
I know that you think Oklahoma City is a mid-major. Come on.
Correct. And
I think I got through all the ones that are majors or cusp of major.
I think so.
I think
so. Yeah.
All right. If you
Columbus,
Villa,
Columbus, right? That could be one.
Shut up.
It's mid-major.
Villarati out there. If you've got any other American cities that you want to know Chris's take on them,
we will rank them.
Slide tackle into our DMs. Chris, is Bologna a major or mid-major city of Italy?
So I've never been, but it looks lovely. It probably like just based on and a totally outsider's perspective, I would probably go mid-major. It's not one of the cities that people name from abroad when they're talking about going to Italy, generally speaking.
Correct.
But it looks great. The pictures I saw online today looked like the traveling fans had quite the time.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'd love to be there. So let's talk about Bologna, Chris. Tactical setup and approach. Buendia, surprise start, I think. Yori moves back to play alongside Amadou Onana, Douglas Luiz to the bench. I think the rest of the squad we largely nailed, right? We both picked Pau. We both picked Luca Dean, which are probably the only other positions that are kind of up for choice. So I don't know, Chris. Like, what do you think about this with Buendia coming back in? I feel like ever since Yori got healthy, Unai Emery is kind of back to Douglas Luiz. I have no need for you.
It could be. I think like with the way Luiz has played, which has not been great. Let's be honest. I think that in big spots, he's always going to go to Tielemans, and Luiz is going to be largely a rotational piece, I think. And it's funny because Luiz really hasn't found his form since leaving Aston Villa the first time around. So I can understand it in this spot. I meant to say this on the pod when we were doing the last one, when we were doing the preview, but I had considered putting in Buendia in there with Tielemans back deep, back to his normal position, quote unquote. But I didn't think that Emery would do that because I didn't think Buendia had earned the right to start either in this game.
And that's why I ask it more than anything. Sure, Luiz has not been the Luiz that we remember from a couple years ago, but he's been fine. I think he's been better than Barkley, who God, baby brain is hitting me, but it cost us the game and a goal a couple weeks ago when he came on. I think he's largely been better than Emi Buendia over his time, which again is not necessarily saying much. And just because Yuri Tielemans had been so good in the number 10 role prior to getting injured, when you responded to this, you were talking about it as a Yuri versus Luiz kind of decision. And I agree with you. Like Yuri versus Luiz, I'm starting Yuri Tielemans every single day of the week. But I'm surprised that it became that decision based on the play of the other players that Aston Villa have.
So that begs a question that isn't exactly about this game, but what if and when Kamara comes back healthy, is it Onana, Kamara, Tielemans then for you?
I think so. Yeah. I think that was how Villa were most effective before we had that 3-week terror span. It was Kamara, Onana, Tielemans ahead of them. I think that is something that would certainly need to be adaptable based on the opposition. Sometimes I'm going to want a little bit more mobility in that front three rather than Yuri Tielemans, who is more of a passer as opposed to, let's say, a runner. I think that whether I would go with that formation would be dependent on whether Pau Torres or Tyrone Mings was playing as well. If Mings is starting, I probably want Tielemans a little bit closer to the back line. But I think if you're picking like for a final and you're just picking best 11, like that is probably what the formation looks like. To be honest, based on the play this year, I wouldn't hate it if Unai Emery experimented with an Onana Bogard midfield. Put Bogard
I agree with
that. And let Amadou Onana range forward a little bit more with Tielemans ahead of them. I feel like that's a lineup that Unai Emery has been seemingly reticent to go to, but I'm not totally sure why. I actually do think that it would be largely effective.
I mean, that's something to look at too down the line. But for this game, I was surprised to see Buendia. And I think that Buendia struggled, particularly in the first half. He came along toward the end of the first half and played better. But he, like the rest of the team, really scuffled in the early going.
Oh, I mean, Chris, the first half was trash. It was garbage. You know, and by the way, I'm not the only one who thinks it. Like, article just came out with Ollie Watkins saying we were garbage in the first half. Probably should have been 2-0 down at halftime. There was really not too much of forward impetus from Villa. We've talked about it ad nauseum this year, the Villa just not showing up for 45 minutes. And we've explained it away in a number of different ways, whether it is that Villa are just downright not good enough. We've put it down to, hey, they're trying to conserve energy in different moments of the game because they know that they're not all that deep.
Yep.
Sure. I think if you're going to take an optimistic view of this, you could say, coming out of an international break, Villa really wanted to, being away from home to a team that hadn't lost in a while. They were kind of testing things out a little bit to kind of see what Bologna were up to. But that argument just doesn't hold water for me, Chris, because Bologna have been, we didn't talk about this enough in our pre-match. Bologna have been bad at home in a lot of games leading up to this, and their manager spoke about it in the lead up. I'm going to completely butcher the stat here, but it's something like they won 1 in their last 7 at home or something to that effect, like insane.
But they've been good in Europe though, like
good in Europe, sure, yeah. but bad recently at home. This is a team that you've already beaten a couple different times over recent seasons. I don't understand the thought process of, hey, we're going to, tiptoe around this one at the outset. Like, no, they're bad at home. You're well rested. Go put your foot on your neck early and put the tie out. Instead, they sat back. They let Bologna get a lot of confidence. And you know what, Chris? You always complain about this. So I want you to keep the same energy. Are you happy or disappointed that we're legislating toenails in this one?
Oh, no, I thought that was a good goal. I still am not 100% sure that I saw the offside. I will keep. It's a good goal. That's a goal for me. That's a goal. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've watched the replay back a bunch of times. I don't see where it's offsides either. It's semi-automated, so we're trusting the AI computers on this one. But
I will keep. I'm nothing if not ideologically consistent. That is a goal. It's been a goal for 100 years. For me, it's still a goal. And
fair enough.
And it was deserved.
Yeah, not the own goal, not Ezri Konsa's fault. But what was it? 2 minutes later, I think very much Ezri Konsa's fault. Dwelling on the ball far too long, looking for the foul, not called. Yeah. And thank God I forget who struck it, hit the crossbar, but that very quickly was a 3-minute concession, a 2-0 down, tie over, European dreams over.
Yep. I mean, the thing that I will say to give us some credit is this first half in particular, but the first half and the end of the game went exactly as we thought it would. We said that Bologna were going to press and put a lot of pressure on Villa and take a lot of shots. They did all those things and did it well. And Emi Martinez made a handful of very good saves, 2 great saves that I can think of off the top of my head. Yep. Villa struggled to get out from the press, but for Bologna making just a comical error near the end of the half, even if you don't take away the 2 goals that they probably should have had, where we're 0-0, right? It should have gone to halftime 0-0 at worst for Bologna, and because they had an error like you would almost expect a Villa player to make, given the way the game was going. Emi Buendia does a nice job applying pressure. I will give credit there, right? And then Ollie Watkins has a really nice finish. Nutmegs the keeper.
Wasn't that the second goal? First goal was the corner on 43 minutes.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. That was the second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was ahead of myself.
Which
So on
was
that
another
one,
awful mistake that you would
terrible,
probably
like
expect
just
out of a Villa backup
horrific,
goalie at some point.
horrific defending. I'm sorry. I flipped the goal, so I apologize, everybody. But still, a terrible mistake. Awful defending. I mean, like Ezri Konsa was practically there was a player with him, but
Draped on him, but Lukumi and as a fellow Colombian, I'm terrified for this defending as we head into the World Cup. But my God, never
Konsa barely had to move to like that ball just came to his head and nobody stopped him.
To use an American football analogy, the corner needs to turn around for it not to be pass interference, right? Lukumi never gets his head around to figure out where the flight of the ball is. And, to be fair to him, the goalie should collect that all day, every day. The fact that he goes so flappy hands on that, shocking. Shocking defending from Bologna. I think the best way to encapsulate it, Chris, because you're right, they dominated possession, they dominated shots, they did everything but score. I will remind you once again of Villa's early season match against Tottenham, where Tottenham were dominating Villa left, right, and center. And at the beginning of the second half, they continued that pressure for a good 10 or 15 minutes. And the commentator said, Spurs have done everything but score. And you can't let a team hang around when you're this dominant. You have to put them away. And Bologna were that dominant, and they should have put Aston Villa away, and they didn't. And you make one mistake, and now you're going into the half 1-0 down against a team that over the past couple years is European battle tested and certainly got woken up.
Yeah, and they can win a game where they're not playing their best, right? That's the one of the positives we can take away from this game with Bologna is Villa were not at the best. Villa were not the best team for huge swaths of that game, if not the entirety of that game, right? And they still were able to come away with a comfortable victory on the scoreline if it wasn't necessarily comfortable at the end of the game. So I am pleased about that. And I already broke down the second goal accidentally because
great press by Emi Buendia. What you didn't break down in that though is this was vintage Ollie Watkins. Gets on the ball, drives at the goalie, no second guessing, confidence to nutmeg the keeper. This is I don't think he's had a goal like this all season long that has felt like the past couple years of Ollie Watkins. This is the first time where I've really looked and been like, yeah, that's the striker that we've grown to know and love over the past handful of seasons.
Yeah, I agree. He played that exactly right. Again, you got to give a ton of credit to Emi Buendia. And I'm sorry if you hear that walking around. That is George making another appearance on the pod. He wants to be a co-host. So
we love George. We love George.
But I thought the same thing as you. The way that Watkins took that with such confidence and put the ball right below the keeper's legs, knowing that he had the space to get there, it was an excellent goal from him. And 2-0, you felt really good. And I was texting my brother and a friend of mine saying, now let's keep a clean sheet, keep a 2-goal lead, all that sort of stuff. But then the same thing happened that we saw in the first half. Bologna continued to apply pressure, which again, you brought up in the preview, how many shots a game they take. They were averaging like 18 shots a game in Europe. They got 19 today. So it was consistent pressure and peppering of the box, or at least putting shots near the frame, right? If they didn't hit on target. I thought that Bologna probably deserved more out of this game than they got. It's a really bad break for them to be going to Villa Park now, down 2.
That Rowe is a hell of a player.
Oh my goodness.
But
also somebody might want to close him out a little bit on the left. Like by the end, how many shots did he take from where he eventually scored from? It felt like a 7,
my God. He was so exciting. He was so fun to watch. Felt very much in that like Jack Grealish, Morgan Rogers role of I'm going to sit wide get the ball, feet on the touchline, almost like an inverted Leon Bailey. And I say Leon Bailey for a reason. I'll come back to that in a second. Almost like a Leon Bailey back in the day of, I'm going to get the ball on the side, drive at the defender, abuse him, cut inside. You're knowing I'm cutting inside every single time. You're not going to stop it and just fire beautiful shots at the net one after another. I was very impressed. Hard for me to not say Villa go buy him this summer because that's the player that we're crying out for right now. But yeah, the goal, the one that he didn't get on
the fingertip save, 2 minutes,
80 minute or something like that. Yeah. Was almost a better shot than the one that he actually scored. But when he does actually score on 89 minutes, God, Leon Bailey, you have to do better. Coming back is such a half-hearted lunge at the ball and then no real initiative to run back after it. That's not the Leon Bailey that we've been rooting for the past couple seasons. And that's really disappointing that he's kind of going out like this. Expected better from Matty Cash today. Really needed to defend Rowe better, needed to cut off the inside, but he was a revolving door all game long, as Rowe continually was able to make things happen over there. But luckily, Bologna continue to not know how to defend corners because just 3 minutes later, Ollie Watkins gets a double. Beautiful corner once again, but why there isn't anybody standing there to clear that out so that it can just fall at his feet? And he took like 3 touches before he finally shot it into the net. And sorry, to just compound the comedy of errors, and then I'll let you talk. Once again, how does the goalie not get that? Like, the first one he gets megged, the second one it goes right kind of under his armpit, but I'm sorry, Ollie Watkins shouldn't score that.
I mean, Watkins and Konsick both could have walked in the net, like with no one stopping them. So like that, it was horrible marking. And I think they were in a hybrid marking where they were man marking partially and zonal marking partially. But it was awful. And but I'll take the goal, and it's a huge goal to go up 2. And there's George making his appearance. So let me let him out real fast. Everybody say hi to George, because I'm flying solo here. So, but a terrible marking again. And I'll take the goal from Watkins, though. I'll take it.
Absolutely. Listen, we'll always take 2 goals from Ollie Watkins right about now. You know, hopefully he'll be rounding into some kind of form for the stretch run of the season. And so I think we've really covered all the good points and the bad points, to be honest with you. There's not a lot to say beyond what we've already covered. So larger implication on the Europa League campaign. Villa obviously go back to Villa Park up 3-1 next Thursday. Also 3 p.m. And so that game is now split in between Nottingham Forest and Sunderland, 2 very big ones for Aston Villa where we need to pick up points. So it's nice to know that we don't necessarily need to go all out next Thursday to make sure that we maintain this lead. Now, that being said, I did just mention Bologna very good, or I should say very not good at home in recent weeks. They have been very good away from home. So this isn't one where Aston Villa can necessarily rest on their laurels.
I think you got to get 1 goal and put it away.
You got to get 1. If Villa can get 1, they should be good.
Yeah.
So let's look ahead to that Forest match, Chris. Sunday, 9 a.m., Villa Park. Forest played Porto today to a 1-1 draw in Portugal, courtesy of an own goal. Heavily rotated side from Nottingham Forest. When we were talking about our relegation preview, we were wondering, we thought we'd get an indication from this one where Marinakis's, and I say Marinakis, not Vitor Pereira, where Marinakis's head is at. And I think we saw it today. You know, let me pull it up quickly to mention to you all the guys that they left on the bench to start this game in Portugal. On the bench, they left Nico Williams, Ibrahim Sangare, Igor Jesus, Omari Hutchinson, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Matt Sells didn't start. They let Stefan Ortega start it. You know, Chris Wood got his first start coming back after like a year and a half out with that injury of his. Most of the guys on here, other than Gibbs White, I Ryan Yates, not a regular starter for them. Murillo is. The other back line, no one is a regular starter for them. James McAtee in from Man City, he's in and out. Clearly, they are focused on the Premier League, and they got the draw that they needed in Portugal too. So
that's right. It worked.
Yeah, it ultimately worked, and they'll go home next week hoping that they can advance and pick up some points in the league as well. So let's talk about the last time we met in the Premier League, Chris. January 3rd. It was the end of the good times. I'm gonna mess up this quote, but Andy in The Office, I think in the last episode, says something like, "Wouldn't it be great to know that they're the good times when you're actually in them?" And I feel
Someone
like
should write a song about that.
Someone should write a song about that. Yeah. Feel like that applies to Aston Villa back in January 3rd. We really were in the good times, and I don't know if we truly knew that we were. 3-1 win, truly dominant performance. One thing that we did note, hilariously given the result today, I think that was the last time Ollie Watkins got a double all season long, and we actually wrote in our rundown, "Is Ollie Watkins so back?"
In fairness, now he has 4 goals, he's got a goal or assist in 4 of his last 5 matches. So I'm not saying he's back,
but he wasn't so back in January 3rd.
He was not correct. No, he was not even close, because it is April 9th.
Interesting stat to kind of emphasize just how on top Villa were in that one. 321 to 66 passes completed in half. Yeah, it was absurd. I can't believe that Forest scored at all in that one. Since then, for Nottingham Forest, has not been great. As a quick reminder on the season, they fired Nuno, poor them, hired Ange, fired Ange, hired Sean Dyche, fired Sean Dyche, only to come to Vitor Pereira, who was appointed back in February. Under him, they are doing better, 3-2-4 in all competitions, but those 3 wins are Europe, and Spurs.
So Europe is good for them. Spurs, not so much. Right?
10 changes in that Spurs match, by the way. In terms of how they play, so they were definitely running with a compact back 4 under Ange and Dyche. I know Nuno kind of oscillates between a 3 and a 5. They're back to something more akin to a back 3, back 5. It's a 3-4-2-1 box midfield. So the 2 defensive midfielders, the attacking midfielders, are going to stay in field to create more of a box in the middle there, and then they get a lot of width out of those wing backs, typically Ola Aina and Nico Williams. They're getting Morgan Gibbs-White more into the 10 spot, and then starting more playing out of the back with Murillo really becoming more of a ball-playing center back. The other area where he seems to really have focused is set-piece efficiency, both offensively and defensively. There is some statistical evidence based on expected goals created and against that this does seem to be effective, this focus on winning the set-piece battle. And overall has just been a little bit more tactically flexible and astute in and out of games. So he's causing teams a little bit more problems. What else? I can't say that they've shown immediate improvement in the Premier League. Obviously, they only have that 1 win against Spurs, but there at least are some underlying metrics to say that the performances are improving. They just need the results to match. Obviously, they did get that draw against Man City, which was a huge result for them. Possession numbers have jumped by almost 10%. They're still not hitting 50, but they are possessing the ball a lot more.
I don't know if they're ever going to be built the way they're currently constructed, right?
Never. But going from where they were, I think it was like 39 to 48, whatever it is a huge step up for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Chris. Like this feels like one where you look at it on paper and say Villa, regardless of how bad their form is, should wipe them away. You look at recent Villa results against Wolves, for example, and maybe you look at some of the underlying metrics of Nottingham Forest, and especially where they're getting to in the business end of the season, clearly where they're putting their emotional effort. And I think you really do kind of look at this one as potentially being a bit more difficult than we would expect, especially with Villa needing to go to the City ground to come away with points here.
I agree 100%. I mean, I've said for the 3 seasons we've been doing this podcast that the City Ground is a very difficult place to play. I think that the way that Forest have been playing better, if not necessarily great, is good for them. I think the fact that they rested so many players in their Europa League game today is another sign that they're really going to be focused on getting what they can out of this game, as much as they can out of this game. So I think it's going to be a difficult test for Aston Villa. I think, like, if you just look at it on paper, yes, like you said, Villa should wipe the floor with Forest, but I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think it's going to be a real struggle.
I think so too. But Chris, actually, you mentioned a good point with them resting all these guys today, and actually, it's something that I meant to mention with Villa's match against Bologna and the slow start that we had. Do you think there's merit to say that Villa's slow start was a result of the extended break that they had? So usually players are used to max a couple weeks away, right?
Yep.
And we saw that as a result of Villa's extended break, they wanted to schedule those friendlies in Spain so the team would retain a little bit of sharpness, but they didn't play last week in the FA Cup. Bologna did against Cremonense. So I wonder, to what extent the slow start was Villa's players just not really being kind of like match ready yet, I suppose, mentally. And so with Forest resting all these guys today, they're essentially entering the match against Villa the way that Villa entered the match against Bologna today, because they also didn't play in the FA Cup last weekend.
And now it's been another week, right? Of not playing. So that's an interesting thought. It's the rest versus rust argument that's been had for decades now on sports radio in America. But I think if you ask players, generally speaking, they want to be playing at least some. They don't want to be off for an extended period of time with no real game action, because it always takes time to get back into game shape and just into the speed of the game. But I do worry about this game as a potential banana skin, for lack of a better term, for Villa, because I think that it's going to be difficult. I think Forest will make it difficult. I think they've got some players that they're getting more out of now, in the fourth manager change that they've made. So I think that we are going to be in for a dogfight here, and I am nervous about it. It's not something I feel great about.
The one thing that I'll say, Chris, is that so much goes through Gibbs White, and Gibbs White is the one who got that lone goal against Villa earlier this season. 9 goals, 11 total contributions from Morgan Gibbs White, who really should be playing for Tottenham Hotspur, if not for legal kidnapping that was conducted against him.
Just kidding. Not really.
Maybe not. Other than those 11 goal contributions, next two closest guys have 6, and that's 3 goals, 3 assists for Igor Jesus. And I should have written this down, so I'm just going to keep talking. We're going to pay attention to the wingbacks, as I said before, and they've got another number of guys coming back from injury as well. Obviously, Chris Wood traveled to Portugal. So they're really going to be firing on all cylinders. So, Chris, looking at Aston Villa, thankfully they got the big win today. So I don't necessarily think that there's going to be this looking ahead to the Bologna home match at all. I think we can definitely very much focus on this one. I do think that, though, we need to be prepared for a team that is going to, despite being at home, probably play for a point.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's going to be the challenge, because if they're playing for a point, what are they going to do, right? Sit deep, soak up pressure, and play on the counter. And that is what Villa are most vulnerable to, giving up goals most of the time. So I actually think that potentially playing for a point could be Nottingham Forest's best route to getting 3. Because if they are well organized defensively, think about the times when Villa played Nuno and Forest, right? They were, generally speaking, well organized defensively, sat deep, soaked up pressure, and then they would hit Villa on the counter, and it would be Nico Williams or Gibbs White or or a combination of those two, and Chris Wood on the end of it last season when he scored 100 goals out of nowhere. But so I worry about this because everything sort of from a tactical standpoint seems like it's playing into Villa's weaknesses.
Yeah, very much so. The only thing that could potentially go for Villa in this one is Forest having one eye towards the Porto home leg on Thursday, and then knowing that really their chance at survival is beating Burnley next week. Anything they get here is gravy, which is why I really think that to your point, they're going to sit deep and just try and get the 0-0 1-1 draw. Knowing that if they can get that and then get the victory against Burnley, I mean, they're basically safe at that point, I think.
So, and what do I always say in these situations, though? When a team's going to do that, the most important thing is to start fast and strike early, because that will force them out. The longer this goes, the more difficult it's going to be to score.
Chris, mostly kidding, but semi-serious question here. If you were Nottingham Forest, do you just come out and get an immediate red card?
No, but maybe. No, it wouldn't be the worst idea, though.
Just send a random guy, like end of the bench, 16-year-old kid, put him out for his first start and say, hey,
buds up, kid.
When you get out there, just run right up to Yuri Tillman, just Johnny Lawrence, sweep the leg, take him out.
I mean, that would be a surefire way to a 1-0 victory, though, for Forest, I think. But no, I think that I think Forest, like I said, I think Forest's best chance is to organize well and play on the counter, and they've got the players who can beat Villa on the counter. I don't think you're going to need to take a ton of shots. I think it's about being strategic and finishing chances where you have them. And if they can get one, all of a sudden that the tenor around the city ground changes and Villa will be chasing the game. And that would be, I think, an interesting development if it plays out that way. So again, start fast, score early, and just get them to come out. That's all you're going to be able to do.
Yep. When it comes to lineups, I'll keep it simple. The only change that I see being made is Ian Maatsen for Luka Digne.
I have Maatsen coming in as well. I think had Yuri Tielemans started at the 10, we would have a different discussion. But I think you'll see Tielemans in the same spot. And I don't think there will be any rotation. I really don't, especially knowing that we're up 2 going into Thursday's game.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm not even sure who we have to go in at this point. Like Jadon Sancho out, obviously. Who we haven't even really talked about.
You're not going to Leon Bailey, right? That's not.
You're not going to Leon Bailey. I don't think that you're bringing Ross Barkley in at this point. I'm not sure really what he gives you as a starter. I think we certainly could see him off the bench, but yeah, I don't think that there's much rotation to go. I think this is probably the lineup that we're trotting out with in some way, shape, or form for the remaining, hopefully 10 to 12 matches that Villa have, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And like you said, Villa need to get on top early. They can't sit deep. I do expect a lot of possessional dominance from Aston Villa. The only thing is, can we find those gaps to exploit either beyond and behind the advancing wingbacks? Use that width, because if we try to play narrow the way that Villa are wont to do under Unai Emery, that 3 at the back, that box midfield, things are going to get very congested very quickly, and I think Villa will get very frustrated very quickly.
I think you're probably right. The only question I have is whether or not Unai Emery will go to Tyrone Mings. He's gone away from it recently, but he's kind of liked rotating Mings and Pau game to game. I wouldn't. I would stick with Pau, but it's worth wondering.
With how much possession Villa expect to have, I just don't. Yeah, Jesus is strong. Chris Wood is strong. Do you want your stronger defender to kind of deal with them? I suppose so, but let's be honest, Villa are going to have probably 60-65% of the ball, right?
You would think.
So, like, you would think that you would want Pau to kind of be the one to hopefully help unlock that defense. But we'll see. What have you got prediction-wise?
I've got 1-0 Aston Villa.
I will stick with what I said during our relegation preview. I have a 1-1 draw.
I should actually look back and see if I'm staying consistent or if I'm being
I think you had us winning. I think you had us winning this one.
I think so.
You had Villa gaining.
I had picking up quite a few points. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist, man. That's who I am.
You are, which is weird because you're usually the angrier one than I am in our text.
I mean, doesn't mean I don't get angry. It means my expectations get dashed, which makes me angrier.
You dream big, Chris, but if you shoot for the stars and you miss, or you shoot for the moon and miss, you fall amongst the stars.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nailed the landing there too.
It's been a long week, man.
It's all right. I've gotten up 1,000 times on this podcast because my dogs are going nuts. I'm gonna have to post a picture of of the dogs because they're co-hosts on the pod now.
You don't need to announce that. This is half an audio medium.
That's
no
true.
one knew. I kept talking.
You did. I know. I heard you. I could hear it. That's how I was able to seamlessly get back in.
Mm-hmm.
But
this is professional.
It wasn't seamless. Is that what you're suggesting?
This is professionalism. We are the Wizard of Oz, letting you behind the curtain here.
We're not professionals.
Shouts out to Black Country Villain.
Always
really
there.
Appreciated the interactions as always on the last pod, particularly as we spoke about Morgan Rogers and his sale. Everybody else slide tackle into those DMs, slide tackle into those comment sections, and we will make your wildest dreams come true, just like the Wizard. That's all I got, Chris. Anything else from you?
No, I'm good there, Dorothy.
You don't get to give names on this podcast. Only I give names.
Fair enough.
You're my Toto. All right. We will be back probably Sunday evening, maybe Monday, to record again, preview Bologna again. Until then, everybody, I'm saying a lot. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.